This key represents you and me as Americans. And that door's America. So what do you think is gonna happen if I put the American key inside the American door? Let's go check it out. No surprise, it unlocked it. What would happen if I put this key in another door? All right, this door right here, that's the Dominican Republic. So when I take my American key and I put it into a Dominican Republic door, what do you know? It doesn't work. Now, if I got really mad at that door because this key didn't work in it, you would think I'm crazy, right? And yet we as Americans come down to the Dominican Republic all the time trying to unlock that DR door with our American key, getting angry at DR for not working with our key. When we all know that the real answer here isn't asking that door to change its lock, it's to recode this key. In today's video, I'm gonna give you 5 mistakes we as Americans make moving down the DR, and I'm gonna reveal for you the 80-20 rule, which is going to blow your mind. Let's dive in. Better setting, don't you think? By the way, if you're new to the channel, my name is Jamie Gruber. I quit my $400,000 a year job back in 2021 and moved here to DR in 2022 with my family. And I share all about life, investing, news, travel here in the Dominican Republic, which hopefully helps you if you're looking to live or invest here. Just sharing my journey. All right, the first way we're inserting our American key into that Dominican door is asking this question. How can I get a job there? As Americans or Canadians or Europeans, the door thing applies to all of you. We're conditioned that jobs are the way to have a great life. So we grow up understanding that I go to school, I go to college maybe, or trade school or whatever, and I go get work, and the idea is that job will pay me a living wage for a life in the United States and Canada, like an American lifestyle, material possessions, the whole thing. But in places like the Dominican Republic, jobs are a very different animal. There are jobs here, of course, but for instance, a teacher with US training coming to DR, going to a private, bilingual, internationally accredited school can expect to probably make $1,000 to $1,500 per month. A bank teller probably makes $300-400 a month. Bank managers might make $25,000-30,000 a year, and so on. Are there jobs that pay a US-style salary for work here? There are, but they're rare. For instance, I worked for Progressive Insurance, big insurance company in the claims department for 21 years. And to this day, right now, if you get hired on as a brand new entry-level claims adjuster, there are probably thousands of jobs in that company and others like it, paying $50,000-60,000 a year. So naturally, as an American, Canadian, whatever, coming here, the thought is, okay, well, how do I just sort of take my US conditioning and apply it down there? And you can, but you're gonna make hundreds of dollars versus thousands of dollars. You're going to make a small percentage of what you're used to earning. And I know, the question becomes, well, how do people survive there? Different society. People making $600-700 a month often live in multi-generational households where 3 or 4 adults in that home make $600-700 a month. Say married couple and a couple of parents of that married couple, the grandparents. Or you have a job to give you some income, something stable, maybe health benefits, but then the rest of what you do is side hustle. You sell a product, you offer a service, whatever it might be to supplement your income. You're probably feeling this coding as I say this. You might even want to fight it, but it just is. Do I want to see wages increase? Sure, but there's trade-offs to that as well, like increasing cost of living for the entire community. Do I want to see people make as much as they can make? Absolutely. I want everybody to win. But what winning is in the United States and Canada versus here are very different. So when we as Americans come down here with our coding saying, well, if I'm going to move to a place, A, B to C means I get job. You have to change that conditioning. The better alternatives are these 2 things. 1, find remote work in the United States, in Canada. And to be clear, I know a lot of people that do this and they're not 100% remote. What they do is say, okay, I can make X working for this company remotely in DR, but I need to come back every 4 to 6 weeks to my city, my town, my state to do something in person, office level work. But I can afford the plane ticket back and forth. I could stay with a relative. And for me, my family, my kids, it's a better experience for us to be there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Let's be a little bit creative. The second option is to create business here. There's plenty of opportunities to earn money by creating your own business and adding value to the culture, the society, the world, to tourists or whatever. But I'll say this as a caveat. Don't plan that from afar. Move first, network, engage, then create the business. You won't even know the right business to create unless you're here. I'm convinced of that. Now, some might assume, oh, well, yeah, but I can move there. I get why it's so much less because it's way cheaper, right? Which leads me to the second mistake Americans make, saying the words I'm putting right here. In DR. People will say, in DR, the power goes out all the time. And I would say, not in Punta Cana, not in parts of Santo Domingo and Santiago, not in parts of the North Shore, but in other parts, yes. Or electricity is expensive in DR. It is in Punta Cana, Santo Domingo, but it's not in other parts of the country. Or in DR, it's too muggy with a ton of mosquitoes. Well, have you ever been to Jarabacoa or Constanza, where it's pretty cool at night, hoodie weather, Trust me. Or in DR, they're gonna charge you whatever they want and gringo tax you. In the pueblitos, in the small towns, in places where prices aren't posted on a board, yes. But you can also go to a lot of places where the price is in the menu, it's on the wall, it's on their website, it's on their Instagram. My point is, as Americans, we look at a place like the Dominican Republic, which is small, especially compared to the US, and we assume one experience is representative of the entirety of that country. You know who actually is the worst at this, often, is Dominican diaspora. If that's you, often you'll dismiss Punta Cana as existing. You'll say crazy things like 80% of people in DR are in poverty, which is not even true by the most skeptical measures, real measures. Not even close, off by like 60 points. You'll say in DR, people run red lights. Have you been in the middle of Santo Domingo, Santiago, Punta Cana, Cabarete? They don't. And we're talking hundreds of thousands, millions of people in these areas that are not running red lights. I remember when the Lamborghini dealership got announced that it was coming to Santo Domingo, and a bunch of people were like, how are you gonna drive a Lamborghini in DR? All the roads have potholes. I'm like, have you not been on a highway here? Many of the highways here are of the same quality or even better than many in the United States. They're paved, they're striped. Trust me. I see some people going Lamborghini speeds down that highway, from Punta Cana to Santo Domingo, up into La Vega, all the way up to the North Shore. My point is this, as an American, we see vast, broad, different climates, different areas, different cultures within the United States, but we refuse to see that in another country. I mean, look, let's distill it down. Before I lived here, I lived in Michigan. Before that, Massachusetts. Before that, New York. But I'll go with Michigan. I know before I moved to Michigan, never having been there before, only moving there for my job, I had this thought, isn't the water bad in Michigan? Don't they get like crazy snowstorms in Michigan? And it became real clear to me once I got there, like, oh, the bad water, that's in Flint. Snowstorms on the western half of the state, but where we lived, Ann Arbor area, honestly, we didn't get that much snow. It would snow often, but just like a little dusting, maybe a couple inches here and there. But out on the west part of the state, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, they would get bands of lake effect snow. Again, a lot of people wouldn't know that if you're just saying in Michigan. Sounds crazy, right? Imagine saying in New York, the skyscrapers are really tall. What if you live in Syracuse? That's still New York. Or all that money in the Hamptons in New York. Well, that's in the Hamptons in New York, not the whole state of New York. It's a big place. Same logic applies here. Before you decide where you're gonna live, before you listen to people talking about in DR, understand that there are markets and submarkets to those markets and submarkets to those submarkets. I'll give you a quick example. Dominican Republic is a market, let's say. A submarket within the Dominican Republic is Punta Cana. A submarket to that submarket is the luxury sector that exists between Punta Cana Resort Village and Cap Cana. A submarket to that is Punta Cana Village, and a submarket to that is the East Village versus the West Village. They're across the street from one another, but they're very different places. You get my point? If you're going to be looking at living here or investing here, please, in DR, you need to recode that as an American. You wouldn't do it for a US state, probably wouldn't even do it in your city or town. One side of town is different than the other. That sub is different than that sub. Same logic applies here. It's not as big or as vast as the US, but it's as diverse on a compressed scale. All right, as we build up to my 80-20 rule, this one really gets me, and that is the approach to buying real estate. If you couldn't tell from my gringosity, it's my new word. It's like being gringo. Gringatious. Let's spam the comments with that one. Let me know you heard it. Gringosity. Word of the day. If you love it, say it. When I moved here and started thinking about real estate at a certain point in buying, the process seemed so convoluted to me. Why? I'm coded American. And now, having been here a few years, having purchased real estate of my own, I recently saw a comment on a post I did on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere, and the comment said, you need to understand that real estate is much more straightforward in the US than it is in the Dominican Republic. And I was going like, huh, seems pretty straightforward to me here. The problem is people don't want to listen. Freaking change it. Again, I'm kind of speaking to my past self as well here, so let me get this therapy out. But here's straightforward for me, and I've said this a million times. Go back and watch my videos. Hire a realtor. Don't go direct to the developer. Hire an attorney up front. And if you're getting a mortgage, go to a mortgage broker, not a bank. You do those three things, it's pretty straightforward. Once you close, you'll be registered with the DGII, which is the IRS. And once that's done, you'll get your keys and you're done. Along the way, different things like escrow don't exist. There are some brokers, realtors, attorneys with third-party accounts that act as an escrow, but otherwise you might be paying a deposit directly to a seller. But here's what happens. It frustrates me. People come down here, they go to a development that they see advertised where they could put $1,000 down to reserve, and they go through and they get a beautiful tour and they get really charged charmed by the salespeople who know what they're doing. And you go to that developer and you say, you know what, maybe we should do this. Having cut completely out the idea of getting a great realtor, which is mistake number one in 95% of the cases, in my opinion. And then once you get to the point of getting the contract signed and everything, it seems pretty straightforward. And why would you spend the money? Why not just use the developer's attorney? This happens every stinking day. And then at the end, when now half of the project is due because you bought pre-construction, you were able to pay the developer in payment installments over 3 years, half, you got to pay off the other half and you don't have it, you're trying to figure out a way to do it. So you go to a bank and the bank is going to run you through the mud. They're going to over-apply underwriting standards to make sure they get the most conservative terms to you as possible. What do you ask for? They'll give you half. Trust me, even if what you asked for was conservative. So go to a mortgage broker. So why don't people want to do this? Here's why. Because this right here says, oh, wait, why would I pay a realtor when I could save 5% commission rate? I can just go direct to the developer and say that 5%. Stop.
A lawyer's gonna charge me 1 to 2%, $4,000 on my $200,000. That's ridiculous. That shouldn't be. So no, I'm not hiring that lawyer.
You stinking coding. Wait, the mortgage broker charges you as the person getting the mortgage, not the bank? Yeah. Gotta change this coding, folks. Gotta change this coding. I refer people to an attorney all the time, and most of the time it's for this reason. I bought this property 2 years ago, and now things aren't going quite the way I want them to. They're changing the terms, they're changing the structure, they're changing what I actually was supposed to get, they're changing the square footage. I'm like, oh, what did your lawyer say up front? I don't have a lawyer. Well, now you want them to go in and retroactively fix the problems that you caused by not getting one to begin with? Estás loco? Coño. Those are fun to say. In too many cases, people end up spending the money on the back end that they should have spent on the front end, and then some. And look, of course, there's gonna be people out there that say, no, I negotiated, I got it, everything went well, and I'm glad. But there's too many exceptions to this rule for me not to say, change your coding. Oh, wait. Coding, and insert a Dominican mindset key into this Dominican door to unlock it. A great realtor, you only need one. There's 1 million realtors, 10,000 of them are great. Small percentage, but they're great. You use that realtor, they filter out the stuff that they don't trust, even if it's okay, it's not a scam, anything like that, but they filter that out. Then the attorney gets to review the contract and point out to you some of the things that are a little bit more favorable to the developer than they should be and help you negotiate them. Can't negotiate everything, but they can at least point out, hey, here's the risk with these things, but this one's essential for us to change. Then when you need a mortgage, you go to the mortgage broker. And in fact, what you should do, you're not in the United States. You can't get a US loan for a Dominican property. You could take a loan on your own home as a HELOC or home equity loan, line of credit or home equity loan, but you're not going to go to a bank in the US and get a mortgage for a property in the Dominican Republic. So if today you're buying a pre-construction and at the end you know you're gonna owe 100 grand and you wanna get a mortgage, call the broker today. Pay their $200, $300 upfront fee to have the consultation and prepare your file. Let them tell you, hey, over the next 2 to 3 years, banks here are gonna wanna see this, this, and this. I would work on establishing that so that when we do go to get the mortgage in 3 years, no problem. The mortgage broker is going to prepare your file in a way that highlights what's favorable for you. And then they're going to put it in front of the banks that they know want that highlight. As a quick aside, when I applied for a mortgage the first time with a bank directly, got dragged through the mud for months. I gave them everything they asked for and they wanted more and different and everything else. The mortgage broker said, you've got a great credit rating. This bank wants great credit rating. Let's lead with that so that we prepare the file in such a way that it's organized. Like, here's hurdle 1, you love that bank, amazing. Here's hurdle 2, let me give them the next best thing, the next best thing, and whatever the challenges with my application might be, just not being Dominican or whatever, are pushed to the back. That was worth every penny. But again, I'm learning, am still, have learned some, that I gotta recode my key. I gotta approach this Dominican door with a Dominican key. By the way, if you need help with any of these connections, a lawyer, a mortgage broker, a realtor, hell, an insurance broker, or anything else, jamiegruber.com/referrals. Fill out any of the intake forms there and my contact will reach out to you. Just know they, of course, will likely pay me some sort of referral fee if you decide to use them. So do your own due diligence and do your own scrutiny on them. If you don't like them, don't use them. All right, the fourth mistake Americans make coming down to the Dominican Republic is they want US accredited schools. This one's gonna be good. But before I talk about it, I have one request of all of you. Down below, if this video is giving you value, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 100,000 by the end of the year. And if you don't hit that subscribe button, I don't know if you'll ever see me again. So if this content and what I talk about is of value to you, make sure you hit it so that we can stay connected. And I appreciate the support. All right, here's what we are coded to understand in the US and Canada. In order to be successful, I need to get good grades in school, go to a good US college with my US education, and get a job at a US-based company. It's fine. If that's what you want to do, cool. And if you wanted to move here, you want to take that same thing and apply it here. Well, wait a minute. My kids are in a US system. If they ever want to come back and go to a US college, are there US accredited schools in DR? And there are. There's in Punta Cana at least 6. Let's see if I can name them. Ashton School, Punta Cana International School, Heritage, Bávaro Bilingual School, Bávaro Innovation, Maximo Potencial. At least 6. There are also other schools that are not US accredited, private, bilingual, excellent. But here's what we see with kids that are older than mine, who are 11 and 8, as well as my own kids. Whether or not they got a US accredited degree at the end of high school here is way, way less a selling point to a US college as their experience living and existing internationally. Picture 2 high school applicants coming into a college admissions officer. On one side, you've got a kid, your kid, who was in the US, moved abroad, learned another language, understands a different culture, tracks with the more mature mindset of kids in this country versus the US. Another video on that, but that's a fact. My 11-year-old even said it. So this kid has all this going for it, your kid. On the other side, you got a kid that lived in
Timbaduki, Oklahoma, who was on the cheer squad and on varsity club.
I was just in Oklahoma, so the accent's fresh in mind. Let me continue.
They went and got themselves a good old job at Best Buy. Now they're gonna go to college.
If I'm an admissions counselor, I see 1,000 of those in one of these. I'm like, well, I want to meet this guy, this gal. I want to meet this kid. By the way, this isn't theory. I can point you to many students that have gone to schools locally, US accredited or otherwise, that went to Columbia, Harvard, Cornell, and everything in between. But here's the kicker. So many kids here, once they leave the United States and they come to a place like this, suddenly the world becomes their educational oyster. I have friends who said, yeah, my kid's between a college in Madrid and New York. Others that are saying Switzerland or China. There's so many kids that I know and parents of kids that I know whose kids are considering the world, not just the US. I don't know if you can tell, but the US is in a weird spot right now. I don't know. I'm American, I'm a proud American, and I hope for the best of the future. I believe the US will remain a very viable and superpower style country everywhere. But when you step out of the US and you interact with others outside of the US's brand, its reputation, and this is not Trump, this is before him, I'm sure it'll be after him, has diminished in the world's eye. And what you're doing by moving here, whether they go to a US accredited school or not, is giving your kids something unique that's actually more attractive to a college admissions counselor in many cases than the standard down the line best schools rating of a 9. And they were the lead 3 years in a row in drama club's play as Stanley in A Streetcar Named Desire. Stop. My own biases here, for sure. I'm not a big, structured education guy. So, full disclosure. But at the same time, I see enough evidence, a lot of evidence to support that thesis that when I hear people go like,
well, but as a kid, my kid coming back to the US is gonna be disadvantaged going back into the US school system.
Nah, the school system's disadvantaging your kid. Their minds have expanded. Their context is exploded. They're gonna be going back into,
Okay, just follow these rules here. Do this, stand up, sit down, bell rang, you heard it. 2 minutes at your locker, go to the prom.
I could keep going. So anyway, gotta recode that education key. Your kids are gonna get the type of education you wish you could have gotten back in the US by moving to any country. All right, I promise that I'm gonna deliver my 5th and final mistake Americans make, or Canadians or Europeans, whatever, coming to DR, that's not understanding the 80-20 rule. Now look, I communicated this 80-20 rule to my inner circle community. A bunch of people that we come together around living in, investing in, or moving to the Dominican Republic. We have members all over the world. And they were like, wow, that makes so much sense, and it gives me so much more clarity on how to operate in DR. Our inner circle is growing. We've got some really cool AI features, a bunch of stuff. Just be part of the community. JamieGruber.com right here. Check it out. Would love to have you. Worth every penny. Trust me. Recently, I shared that we were able to check cardboard boxes as luggage coming down to DR on Delta. Can't do that on every airline. That's not the point. But it opened up a lot of questions. Many were like, well, how much do they charge? How about this? And I kept saying same as check bag. How much weight? Same as check bag. How many? Same as check bags. Same thing. They're like check bags and cardboard boxes for something that you don't need a piece of luggage for. Only difference with them is they bring them to the oversized luggage carousel area, not to the main carousel. Other than that, nothing. But the questions that came up were like, but doesn't
customs, which is called aduana, don't they like open the box and don't they scrutinize it? Like, what about this? What about that? Doesn't it open you up to a whole bunch more searches and stuff like that?
And I said no. And so did a bunch of other people. But of course, there are people who said yes. This brings me to my 80-20 rule of all things life in DR. And for context, my wife says it floats between 50 and 80%. Could be 50-50, could be 60-40, could be 70-30, depending on context. But the point is, it's never 100-0. In the US, Canada, some things are 100-0. Not here. Let's play this scenario out. Let's say you bring the box from DR to the United States. Bear with me now. And when you get to the United States, a US customs officer says, wait a minute, you can't be bringing a cardboard box through customs. In the US, what we would do is you might go on a website, you might pull up an email, you might do whatever it is to show them the process, the outline, the rule that says indeed you are allowed to bring cardboard boxes into the US. And by and large, the process is the foundation. It's the bedrock. It's what we all cede our judgment to. Well, if the process says that, hands off. That's why when you see these like First Amendment auditors go out and record a police officer doing something that's against the First Amendment, it becomes a lawsuit and people lose their mind. They talk about rights being violated. It's a big, big deal, as it should be. At least my American coding says that. But when all else fails in the United States, we default to the process. Now let's flip it around. You land from Miami on Delta, or Atlanta is probably a better example, on a Delta flight. You have cardboard boxes that you brought. And the DR customs lead at the airport at that time says, you can't do that. We need to search those. You could pull up any document you want and show them. You could show them in black and white how that is allowed. No issues. It should be done because it says it right there. But if this guy is the customs lead and he's making a judgment call that those boxes need to be searched or they're not allowed at all, he wins. Well, the US and Canada are organized around efficiencies and processes and self-scan machines and all of that. DR is organized around people. So what that means is when all systems break down in the US and you default to what does the process say, what does the law say, what does the Constitution say, 100% of the time, or damn close, that is going to be what we abide by. In the Dominican Republic, true too, but more like 80% of the time. So in the example of these boxes, that aduana customs agent who said, I don't care what that says, I'm searching that, it is what it is. You might say it's the same in the US, but you might have some recourse in the US. You ain't getting any recourse here. This guy decided it in that moment, 80-20 rule prevails. So now apply it in different ways. Oh, this restaurant is excellent, 80-20 rule. There's no sarcasm on the beaches in November, 80-20 rule. We're gonna come back on Monday and fix it. 80-20 rule. On that note, my mother-in-law who lives in the US bought a home for retirement in her hometown where she grew up here in DR. And since we live close to it, my wife was helping her out with getting like a paint job done in that house. I think it was paint, but whatever. She went on a Friday, she met the guy who owns this paint company, and he said, yeah, no problem. Monday, we'll be there Monday, come back Monday, we'll have my painter here and we'll get everything taken care of. Well, Monday came. My wife went to the house. About an hour, 45-minute drive from where we live. Shows up, no painter. Calls the guy like, hey, where's the painter? And he goes, well, today's Monday. My guys go out on Sunday. Couldn't have mentioned that on Friday, but for him, hey, 50-50 chance he showed up. So why not make you drive out here and wait for him, huh? Can you, is it like aided? Can you feel the coding? Is it like, trust me, us too. But that mañana lifestyle, like, yeah, tomorrow, but not really tomorrow, like sometime in the future, possibly. Essence of the 80-20 rule. And again, when you're going through processes that have human intervention within them, just know that the process is followed most of the time. But human interpretation will win 20, 30% of the time, even if the process is there and present. The whole idea here is if you move down here, trying to insert that US key brain into a DR door, you're gonna drive yourself nuts. These are the mistakes that you'll make. These are the mistakes that I've made. These are mistakes I still make, but wishing for the lock to change is a fool's errand. Maybe it will. Maybe it doesn't need to. Maybe accept what this place is for what it is and the beauty of it. I mean, look at this. Look at where I am right now. Incredible. I'll take this over the occasional, this dude was a pain in the ass. But understanding these 5 rules, knowing that you need to change your American coding, not approach everything Dominican through an American lens, especially the real estate one, folks. I mean, the next person that messaged me and says, I got a problem from a couple of years ago. I need a lawyer. And I'm like, well, what is your original lawyer? Oh, I didn't hire one. I'm starting to not feel bad anymore. You know? Shouldn't even say that part out loud, but whatever. Here's what I do know. This place is beautiful. The people here are beautiful. Life, when you adapt and adjust your key, when you recode it, gets way easier for you. But if you're gonna be hard to this, if you're gonna be stuck on, this is my key, this is what I am, this is right, it's not the place for you. It just isn't, so I wouldn't even try. Now look, the idea of getting a great realtor, an attorney, and all those steps to buying real estate is super important, so much so that I put it all here in this video for you. Tap on that, watch it, trust me, give yourself some education, especially if you're ready to recode that key and adapt to the way just things are, and I'll see you on the next one.